Just one look at you, and I know it's gonna be a lovely day.
Hello and welcome to Jack's Tap, episode 24. I am Jack. That is John.
Hello.
Hello. And it is Leap Day, February 29th. Pretty huge for this podcast that it worked out that on this Saturday it is February 29th. Only happens once every 4 years, but we'll get into that. This week we are discussing on this day as usual, explaining the leap year and the leap day. Going to talk about John and I's favorite scene in the Lord of the Rings trilogy, my buddy Tyler Smith, T-Riz the Skiz, which is a real stupid nickname. He was my freshman and sophomore year roommate in college, and I just started calling him T-Riz the Skiz. Pretty sure does that ring a bell to you? Like something from pop culture or like a show or something?
Not at all.
All right. Maybe I was just original and came up with it. T-Riz the Skiz as a nickname for Tyler. But now it is his Twitter handle. And I was like, was I dumb or did I come up with that for you? Or were you already T-Riz the Skiz? He's like, yep, I couldn't think about what I wanted to be on Twitter. And I remembered you call me T-Riz the Skiz. So I went with it. And I don't think there's any other T-Riz the Skizes on Twitter. So I think he is the original, but
didn't even come close to anyone else.
Yeah, because it is not a part of pop culture. It is not something that people say. It is a stupid, stupid name. But I was inspiration for him there. He, I think for the second time, Snapchatted me the scene from Lord of the Rings last night. So he watches it even more than we do. And but now every person I meet that, even if they don't know Lord of the Rings, I've brought it up to people.
You've probably shared it with more people than me and Seabass have.
Yeah.
And we're the ones that, that pointing it out originated with us, at least within our circles. And,
I just remember, remember the one time we watched it in the Honda Pilot? Like literally on the small fucking 4-inch screen in there one time. We went and watched Lord of the Rings in there.
Yeah.
Just literally right out front of the house. Do you remember that? We did that one time.
Yeah. Vaguely.
I can't remember if that was a time that we just kept rewinding that one scene. We've done that before where we rewinded it like 25 times and just kept laughing our asses off to it. So we'll get to that. A scene from Lincoln, I think that's just the name of it, the one with Daniel Day-Lewis where he plays Abraham Lincoln. Yeah, it's the prize video that Brady wanted to watch. So we'll watch a little bit of that. We're going to discuss the Tim and Eric show that I saw last Saturday after the episode 23, an instant classic. The Dutch coastlanders have told us they've been raving about it. They said, thank you so much for getting that out of the Dutch coast. We feel so much safer, and we still have the same great content, so thank you so much. And I went and saw Jessica Kirson, a very funny comedian as well, at Zany's, and just some fun goofs and gaffs from that. And Louis C.K. Article about him being a terrible person, but just doing a great advertising job for him. So again, it is February 29th. This only happens every 4 years, unless it's divisible by 100. Unless it's divisible by 400, we'll get to that. So February 29th, on this day in 1504, Christopher Columbus uses a lunar eclipse to frighten hostile Jamaican Indians. Just another example of Christopher Columbus being a terrible person. In Jamaica, I like how they call them Jamaican Indians, like as if Indians is just the term now for indigenous people, even though it's just purely because Christopher Columbus thought he was going to India, so wherever he landed, he just called people Indians. Makes no sense to call indigenous people from separate countries Indians. Are we back? Fully back. So we just call people Indians from different countries. And we're back. Slight technical difficulty, but we're right back in it, talking about Jamaican Indians not being a thing. So he used a lunar eclipse to frighten them. It said to frighten hostile Jamaican Indians. Jamaican Indians were only hostile because this fucking guy shows up and is like, is this India? And they're like, no, it's not India. And he's like, fucking die. God is trying to kill you with this lunar eclipse. And he's like, but I know the way to help you. I will save you. I am Christopher Columbo. Salem witch trial. Go ahead.
One thing. So, basically they used, since they were good with like predicting that type of stuff.
Yeah.
With, because they had the calendars and they made all that whatnot. He knew it was coming up. And he's like, if you don't follow this, there will be this, moon thing.
Right.
And they didn't, and then was like, see, I told you.
Right.
And they're like, oh my God.
He's got. That's some smart shit for a guy. I mean, to be honest, it was probably incredibly difficult to navigate to India back in the day. So just the fact that he made it to a place at all, and it works out, there you go. Like, doesn't mean I have to respect you, but, you got there.
Dying from scurvy.
Right, yeah. You got there. And you took over the place when you got there. It's impressive that he knew that a lunar eclipse was coming, but he couldn't find his way to India, which was immensely closer than where he ended up. In 1692, it was the beginning of the Salem witch trials. The first people are accused of witchcraft in Salem, Massachusetts: Sarah Good, Sarah Osborne, and Tituba, a West Indian slave. After I said Tituba and I read that it was a West Indian slave, it made me feel worse about mispronouncing it, because I'm not of that culture. I was hit with 2 Sarah names. I was kind of expecting a Sarah trifecta, and then they hit me with Tituba, and I was so baffled by the name there that I didn't stop to read the next part of it, which is a West Indian slave. Could have maybe tried to go with something more authentic there, out of respect and just general professionalism there, and to create a more accurate guess as to how to pronounce the name, but I just went with Tituba. They were accused of being witches. And then it had a photo, you don't have to go back to it, but it had a photo of just like a woman on trial with her hands up, and there was like something was shooting out like a gleam of light or something, and everyone else was like looking scared, and it said that drawing of it was done 200 years later by just some guy. It's like, all right, well, that guy didn't know anyone that was alive when that happened, so bullshit drawing in the 1800s. In 1960, the first Playboy Club featuring bunnies opens in Chicago. Once again, could have done research on this, but John, do you know, was the first Playboy Club in Chicago, or does this mean Playboy been around, now it opened for the first time in Chicago? Big ol' sneeze.
I'm not really up to snuff on my Playboy facts.
That's why you're here. What are you here for?
But if it says Playboy Club, I'm guessing it already existed, like the magazine, and maybe the mansion did, and this was them, making destination things. I don't know.
God, I'm going to become a meme right now with my sneeze face. Sorry.
But that would be my guess.
Yeah. Maybe this is, since it says featuring bunnies, this is the first time that he actually had girls there. Before, the Playboy Clubs were just him in a robe, and he was walking around, and he was like, you guys having a good time? And then when he got to Chicago, he's like, we're going to need some fucking chicks. And they had artificial bunnies at the last place. Call back to last week's joke where I was a dumbass about, was it rabbits? Rabbits. that's all the things. February 29th doesn't happen so often. It only happens every 4 years unless it's divisible by 100, unless it's also divisible by 400, and then it is a leap year. So not as many things have happened on this day. And classic birthday conundrum is when people born on February 29th, it's like, are they 16 or are they 64? What's going on there? That's a fun little thing there. Randy Jackson was born in 1956. Is he in fact 64? Wow, that worked out perfectly. Is that 64 years ago? Nice. Yes, it is. 56, how to get to 0 or the year 2000. It's going to be 44 years. And then to get the rest of the way to 2020, 44 plus 20, 64. What's 64 divided by 4? 16. Woo! Nice. Woo. Oh, yeah, that's good stuff. All right. And Tony Robbins was born in 1960. 60 years old to 15. Cool. All right. So those are the people that were born today. And here's what Leap Day is all about. So we're going to go. Did I miss someone? Oh, yeah, right. Nobody was born after 1984. So people were born every 4 years here. That's the famous people. I mean, they're even mentioning people like Clinton Tupy, Chris Conley, Cam Ward, Cullen Jones, names nobody's ever heard of. But after 1984, you're telling me there's not one person that was born on Leap Day? Little suspect. I think they've been killing Leap Day babies since the 80s, and we're not going to have anybody that was born on February 29th anymore because they heard it was a very inconvenient birthday. So there's a conspiracy there. So what is a leap year? We use leap years to keep our calendar in sync with the seasons. How do leap years work, and how often do they occur? They occur every 4 years, and this is a leap year. It seems a little cruel that it happens during election season all the time, so you just have an extra day of the campaign trail, but all well. So the tropical year is 365.24 days. Our calendar is 365 days on the dot, which is a quarter of a day short of orbit, and the leap year is a 3/4 day over the actual orbit. So we do it approximately every 4 years. But if we go down a little bit further as to the rules, and keep going down, the leap year rules. So in the Gregorian calendar, there's 3 criteria that need to be taken to identify leap years. The year must be evenly divisible by 4. If the year can also be evenly divided by 100, it is not a leap year, unless the year is also evenly divisible by 400, then it is a leap year. So according to these rules, the years 2000, 2400 are leap years, and 1800, 1900, 2100, 2200, 2300, 2500 are not leap years. So in the year 2000, it was somewhat unique as it was the first instance when the third criterion was used in most parts of the world since the start of the transition from the Julian calendar to the Gregorian calendar in 1582. Nice. Who invented leap years? Leap years in the Western calendar were first introduced over 2,000 years ago, folks. On this day, over 2,000 years ago, they invented this day. They said, let's have a little more February. Let's celebrate black people for one more day every 4 years. Julius Caesar said that. The Julian calendar, which was named after him, had only one rule. Any year evenly divisible by 4 would be a leap year. That's fucking nuts that they knew that back then. But then it's a little bit off because we're leaping forward a little too much because it's not exactly 365 days and a quarter every year. It's like 365 days and like a little bit over a quarter or something like that, or a little bit under. But But it also said somewhere that if we didn't correct, then every 100 years we would be 28 days off the normal calendar. So give it a few centuries and we'd be celebrating Christmas in the middle of July. Now, wouldn't that be something? Wouldn't that be a little silly? Hanging out in the tropics, tropical sun, got a big old pine tree, you're putting up ornaments. Santa's supposed to come down your chimney. Nobody has a chimney in the summer. It's hot out. So that's why we have the leap year and the leap day. We added into February because it's too short of a month. Why do we have so many days in months like October, December, July, I believe, is a 31-day month? Why do we have like several of those and then we have 1 month that's 28 days?
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not too up on my calendar theory.
Yeah.
But I just had a thought that's gonna make no sense, but there's like this math problem that all species work off of, and it is like a chaos pattern or something, but every so often there will be a point of balance where the math problem works, and it's supposed to be like I don't know enough about it, but I was just but it's super weird. And then I was just like, what if that happened on a leap year?
Right.
And the chaos problem was in a point of balance? Would we just explode?
Probably.
Or would it be like a golden age or something?
All
Anyways,
of a sudden,
that
we get it.
I'm going way over into left field with that one.
It's fine.
Yeah.
That was left field. Brett John McWilliams. I like how you just like into it and you're like, I don't really know the details of it, but so it's.
I forget exactly what it's called.
Is it all animals?
Basically, or at least all mammals that I know. But also it applies to matter and all like and how the universe works.
Yeah.
It's super strange. I forget what it's called, but it's like a shit. Because I'm forgetting the words. Because I'm bad with those.
Yeah, those are
names
essential
and words
in the explanation.
But you know that graph where it's essentially, it looks trippy kind of, and it's supposed to be. I'll figure it out.
Yeah, the trippy graph is not enough for me.
Yeah.
Oh, the one where it's like X, Y, and Z. And it's like trippy. No, I don't know.
Yeah. Anyways,
all right.
I'll figure it out over here, and if I do, I'll pop back in.
Okay. So here we've got the amazing, infamous scene from Lord of the Rings where. So what's just happened? It's the two towers. I know they're the riders of Rohan. So the kingdom is Rohan, right? And it's King Theoden is taking his people to Helm's Deep because the Saruman, the wizard, is attacking them with his freshly made army of orcs. An Orokai. And he was going right for their kingdom. So then he's going to bring all his people to Helm's Deep, this other kingdom that's at the bottom of a hill, because it's apparently going to be safer there. I don't know. And on the way going there, they're attacked by a scout pack of orcs on top of these, like, I don't know, fucking crazy made-up animal that's like their version of horses. And Aragorn, one of the main characters, played by Viggo Mortensen, Academy Award winner, for that one where he's like in the car and he's talking to Makushla Ali or something. I forget his name. Marshala. Academy Award winner. He falls to his death, his supposed death. And this is the scene after that turmoil where like a bunch of their soldiers who were protecting all the civilians on their way to Helm's Deep die. It's like their only defense against this giant army currently. So it's like, fuck, we just got a bunch of our people killed on the way to go get killed at this new spot, including the new love of my life. This princess, the daughter of King Theoden, has like been sleeping around a little bit with Aragorn. So this is her learning that he is dead. And it's supposed to be a very emotional scene, but John and I have found the humor in it. So they're all rejoicing that they have found Helm's Deep. Pretty good green screen there. That looks like a nice painting. All the women and children in a line getting into Helm's Deep. They open their doors. Here's that epic Lord of the Rings music. You gotta watch Jack's Tap on YouTube to get the beautiful cinematography from Lord of the Rings, The Two Towers from the mid-2000s.
Just all the emotions and seriousness.
Right, we're like, oh boy, what's happened? Oh, a mom rejoiced with her two kids, and that's actually been from earlier in the film. So here's the princess saying, "Where's the rest of the food?" And there's not much. Foreshadowing, where's the rest of the people? Well, here comes the king and his riders. Make way for the king. She runs to greet them. We see Legolas. We see the king.
So few of you have returned.
Our people are safe. We have paid for it with many lives.
So right there, that's a hilarious part right there. The king's response to his daughter, just so few of you have returned. Our people are safe, but we paid for it with many lives. He's just casually getting another knight off of his horse. Apparently that knight needs help getting... Why is the king helping a dude off his horse? Why is he being such an insensitive prick to his daughter right now?
He's a noble king. Also, I constantly question our sanity when we find this hilarious.
It's hilarious.
Many lives. I don't know why.
He just goes a little too hard at that point. It's like he didn't... Our people are safe, but we lost many lives. It was probably what the director was thinking. Our people are safe, but we have paid for it with many lives.
Yeah, and that's not even the kicker. It's
and then
that's just a bonus.
Here comes Gimli the dwarf, classic comedic character in this trilogy.
Many lives.
Many lives. Let me help you off the horse here, buddy.
Lord Aragorn. Where is he?
Clearly an emotional wreck.
Phil.
That's beautiful. Let's give it another go.
Phil.
He fell. So
Can't even really
and
understand
then
what he says.
Here comes in the...
Death, destruction, heartbreak.
Like her face
And we're
is
just
very
laughing.
pale. Yeah, and we've rewatched that scene so many times. It's supposed to be such an intense emotional scene there. But it's pretty fucking hilarious that they have like this character, the dwarf. First of all, the king's just like an asshole to his daughters. It's just like, I'm worried about the people. We paid for it with many lives. And then Gimli comes up and he's like, my lady, Lord Aragorn, where is he?
Watch no one understand our humor.
I've told it to several. Yeah, I even told it to like an older woman that I work with, and she said she watched the Lord of the Rings movies recently, and I was just like, oh yeah, like my favorite scene is when you remember when like Aragorn, it's like he almost dies, and she's like, yeah, I guess I do, and then the girl's super sad about how her like, you know, her future husband here, her love of her life has just died. Yeah, I never really thought much of it. Yeah, it's pretty fucking funny when the short one comes up and tells her that he died by falling, right? He fell. And yeah, it was, you know, I don't normally do it as douchey as that, but that is probably how it comes off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And even in the comments, it shows that we're
Right.
We're one of a few.
We've got, actually, yep, give it a zoom there. Thank you. Perfect. Cohen Franson, Jesus Christ. Okay. Comments, beautifully filmed piece, her despair, the king's despair. All will come together in a sadness never filmed better. This is acting. This filmmaking. Which probably means this is filmmaking. This is a good soundtrack. That is a spot-on take, a beautifully written way to say this is a good soundtrack. This is that good soundtrack. That is that good soundtrack. It's the same person who said it too. Cohen Franson also says, the sadness in this just gets me always, ... all hope gone, ... for her, ... Who the fuck is Cohen Franson? Incredibly serious takes here. Very, very impressed by that good soundtrack and that good acting. And then another person just comments, he died from her stew. So Kaz didn't have quite the emotional response. Replies, oh, Cohen Franson. Her stew looked actually pretty decent, okay? You spelled decent descent. Cohen Franson really defending this scene. It is his or her favorite scene in the entire trilogy, and anyone who has anything else to say is an idiot. Another person, Benjamin, wrote, she got a good jaw, like Jolie. Okay. She is gorgeous. What is this vocal's name? Says Jacob Drury. I know, right? It's not in the soundtrack. Really wish I knew the song. I think the name of the song is Phil? Lord of the Rings. When I was trying to find that scene, because we got that iMac that doesn't have got a spot for the disc, so can't use my Lord of the Rings DVDs. So I was just looking it up on YouTube. Found a short clip of it. Didn't have the whole thing with the he fell. It's like, what, do people not realize this is a hilarious fucking moment that needs to be on the internet? But then we found it. But before then, I found this, which literally has a bunch of photos as if it's like a comic book and photos of what's happening. People saying like, villagers, Helm's Deep. Cut to the photo of the princess. The woman and children enter Helm's Deep. It's got like 3 photos of that. Freda, mama. Mother, Freda. So that's where I was like saying, the mom and the kids find each other. Make way for the king. Eowyn, so few of you have returned, Theoden. Our people are safe. We have paid for it with many lives. And then it's like his just like kind of like noble king face and her face of like, oh shit, I swear to God, did Aragorn? And then Gimli, my lady, Eowyn, Lord Aragorn? Where is he? Gimli's face. He fell. And then it cuts over to, them behind the wall, Saruman, and Merry and Pippin with the Ents. And you're like, well, that's kind of random that this website just has that scene here, or this group of scenes in like comic book mode. Like, that's weird. And then it says at the bottom, previous and next. And then we clicked next, and it's just the next couple scenes. And here's Aragorn. It's a pretty fucking funny scene of him with his other lover, who he actually ends up with at the end, who's an elf, so she lives forever. And but because Aragorn's about to die, then she's like going to die with him. There's that whole thing, because she gave up her immortality in order to love a mortal. It's this whole elf thing that they had to do.
Just hilarious.
Yeah, nonstop goofs and gaffs. But some fucking person has put the entire film in this comic book form with all of the like the script, essentially. So that's intense dedication. But to go even a step further, I found the same thing with short clips of the entire film. So here's that same scene from the movie in intensely short clips.
So few of you have returned.
That's quite honestly the longest one they've had. Well, you want to go back to that and just keep hitting next clip? Please.
Our people are safe.
Right?
Our people are safe.
Okay.
We have paid for it with many lives.
All right. Why are we going this slow to show such a short amount of time? Literally just saying my lady. This is the
Lord
most
Aragorn.
ridiculous.
Lord Aragorn. Where is he?
It's a 5-word
Completely
sentence.
unnecessary.
Where
Yeah.
is he?
5-word sentence cut up into 2.
He fell.
But that is...
Fell. He fell.
We've been talking
Gold.
about adding sounds. That should probably be that should maybe be our first sound. Quick clip.
Probably.
It says
Something like
wanna
that. Also, that rapper, when he burps and goes,
Yeah.
"Are you ready?"
Yep. That for sure too.
Yeah. What's his name again? No.
Sharkula
Sharkula.
and Jamsdean,
Yeah.
the dynamic duo. Ooh, and probably something from Gunther. A little Tutti Frutti Summer Love. Or maybe like Bananas, Malonas. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, so it also said, want to embed this on your website? I've been thinking more and more if I want to create my own website with like Squarespace and get a discount code from one of these podcasts I listen to, or pay somebody to make it. The people that I've seen with made ones that they paid for, I don't like it much more than Squarespace, but we're going to see. So I'll embed that on my website. And then, yeah, that meme was funny, but that's even more niche. It says, my lady, where is Lord Aragorn? And then it's, he took a little tumble off the cliff. That's the orc who killed Aragorn. And yeah, that one's a little bit more in, as if this whole segment was not inside. That's even more inside. You got to see the guy who hits him off the cliff, and he's a whole dick about it when they're like, where's Lord Aragorn? But to be honest, everybody knew that Aragorn at this point did not die, because this was the second of 3 movies. We're only like an hour and a half into this second movie. He's turned into the main character. You can't have him die. So it was kind of like, all right, that's why we're so like, this is hilarious. This isn't serious, because we know he's alive. That's why we're able to laugh at it. We're not cruel humans. We just know the ending. Very true. So as we talked about,
By the way, I found the thing.
oh, okay. What is it?
So, fractals.
Oh, yes.
You know what those are, right?
Yep.
So, these things, fractal and dimensions, this is actually based off of a math problem. And it's like these points that are filled and the exterior points, these are all points within the math problem that are balanced points, and everything else outside of it are like, wait, no. These are the points that are actually on it, and there's only these points of balance, I think, or these meeting points. I forget, but it's kind of crazy. And these are the different...
Right.
And it just kind of keeps going and keeps going and keeps going.
Right. The name, hold up, go up. The name fractals is derived from the fact that fractals don't have a whole number dimension. They have a fractional dimension. Initially, this may seem impossible. What do you mean by a dimension like 2.5? But it becomes clear when we compare fractals with other shapes.
And there's different ways of calculating it, but there's... Yeah, the Mandelbrot set. And this is it. And it's this equation that's based that populations of, like, say, like deer follow this. Yeah. Still doesn't make too much sense as to where I was going with this. But
Yeah, and we also haven't done a great job of explaining. Well, that looks fucking trippy. Good
and
Lord.
it keeps going and going and going and going and going and going
All right.
and going
Jesus.
and going and going and going and going.
Wow, it got
boom
and
boom.
We're back to something blue.
Yeah.
All right.
So this is
that's
times, like, this is multiplied by 68. Wait, hold on. 100, 100,000 million, over 68 billion times zoomed.
Interesting.
And it keeps...
Right.
Yeah, so it's kind of nutty.
Well, that's a bunch of deers right there.
Anywho.
All right, the Lincoln thing.
And on the Lincoln.
Brady wanted to watch this movie because he earned it as a prize at the end, and it's just straight up a scene from Daniel Day-Lewis's Lincoln. And I just turned around, and he was laughing his ass off at this while everybody else was kind of quietly taking like a vocab test or something like that. And I forget what they were doing, but it was quiet, and then all of a sudden he just laughs hysterically, and he was watching this scene. So we're going to watch a little bit of it, and it's because they say the word hell. Okay.
Our members to a fairly well. You've had no defections from the Republican right to trouble you. Whereas to what you promised.
I mean, this is a beautifully
Where the hell are the
cinematic
commissioners?
scene.
Oh my God.
Nice little over-the-shoulder angle of Lincoln.
You
People on either
lied
side.
to me, Mr. Lincoln. You evaded my request for a denial that there is a Confederate peace offer because there is one. We are absolutely guaranteed to lose the whole thing.
We don't need a goddamn abolition amendment.
itself.
Leave the
Two people
Constitution
talking at the
alone.
same time, getting loud. Here's a
State by
stoic
state
Lincoln.
connection.
Smacks his hand on the table.
I can't listen to this anymore.
Yeah.
I can't accomplish a goddamn thing of any human meaning or worth until we cure ourselves of slavery and end this pestilential war.
All right, you can pause it. Yeah, it's a super intense, important scene here, and Brady's treating it like we treat Lord of the Rings when Aragorn dies. Like, here's Lincoln's final stand here with other, I don't know who the fuck these people are, but they're clearly not with Lincoln on the abolishment of slavery. And just because somebody says the word hell at the beginning there, Brady was just laughing. And I went back there. I was like, "What's so funny?" And he rewinds it, and then it like gets to this, and there's subtitles too. So he like just points at it, and he's just like laughing his ass off. I'm like, "All right, well, why don't we watch something different?" So yeah, his new favorite thing is very intense presidential movies that he will just laugh at hysterically. So this week I really didn't do much. I was pretty tired. It was a long work week. People were out. We didn't have subs for different days. Yeah, still fucking worked out. Didn't read a book, but that's all right. Still worked out every day. Got in there, got a pump on, and but then went home and like 2 of the nights just got like right in bed after eating, and I was just watching like a couple podcasts and then fell asleep. Specifically, I think it was Wednesday. I went home after working out and just turned a podcast on, but I like the light was feeling kind of bright, so I was just like, fuck it, I'm gonna turn the light off. Turn the light off. I probably fell asleep at like 6:30 p.m. and woke up at midnight and was like, shit, I just completely messed up my sleep schedule. I was figuring I wasn't going to be able to fall back asleep. Nope, fell right back asleep and woke up at 6:30. So I think I slept for like 12 to 13 hours. And then still felt super tired on Thursday. Not, it wasn't like horrendous, but yeah. So I don't know what was going on there, but I was pretty fucking tired. But I did see a couple shows. We saw the Tim and Eric show. And like I said, we got edibles for it. And I don't normally get high before shows. I typically just go, straight sob, as me and the boys call it, straight sob. No drugs, no alk. And just go for the love of the game. Just go for the laughs. And I don't need to get into an altered state for the show, but I was going with Paul, I was going with Patrick, I was going with Ken. They don't go to as many shows. It's Tim and Eric. They're goofy, they're wild. They wanted to, so we took edibles beforehand and went to the Chick-fil-A right next door, and we were already just like, out of our minds a little bit. Ate some good fried chicken and went into the show, and we're there like super early. And they handed us these cards that, can you hit pause actually for a second? I'm going to find the card. Let's do this. And we're back. 43. So this card, it's a very miniature fake playbill, and it's got Tim Heidecker on the front. It says, Aetna presents a medical play. And it's got 2 fake about the actors' bios. And at the bottom, it's saying, medical play is the story of Jason Reynolds, a young man who must confront his past before seeing his doctor, Dr. Ram Bunman. Luckily, Jason is an employee of Aetna Health Insurance and a proud card-carrying member of Aetna Health Insurance. So it's just a joke, but like the people who walked us to our seats were like very specific about, did everybody get a card? Like, these are very important to the show. Does everybody have a card? And we were all like thinking like, okay, we were looking at our cards like, there's nothing really about this. It's just kind of a funny joke because this isn't what the show was or is about to be. And then we started thinking like, maybe they're gonna, because we heard it was such a participatory show, they look for a lot of participation. Maybe certain people's cards has like a thing that says they're supposed to be on stage with them. And then it was only further confirmed by this guy who was clearly working for them at the show. And then he was like looking into the crowd from on stage, and he finds a guy, and he was like putting on a Tim and Eric shirt, and the guy, and we're like close enough to hear, he goes like, "Are you the guy?" And he's like, "Yeah, I'm the guy." And then they like high five and hug, dap each other up with one of those dap up hugs. And then he says, "Let's go." And then they like walk out of the audience, and then we don't see that guy again. And I knew that guy worked for either Chicago Theater or Tim and Eric, because one, he was fucking on stage, and two, the when you walk into the theater, they literally had a 32-inch TV playing just video of Tim Heidecker playing the guitar. When they have that giant projector at the Chicago Theater and like a amazing studio, speaker system, they literally just had a 32-inch TV that was playing just like shitty. So that was a funny joke. And then the guy came out earlier and like put a Bluetooth speaker so everybody could hear it better. And we were like all like theorizing like, oh, it's going to keep getting bigger and they're going to make it louder and then they're going to put it on the big screen and then Tim and Eric are going to come out. But none of that happened. All that happened was that guy came out again, found someone from the crowd, said, "Is it you?" And the guy said, "Yeah, it's me." And then they're like, "Let's go." And they left. And I'm like, what the fuck is happening? And then the show starts and they played this clip that was like, it was a joke. They're comedians. And they were saying like, every time you applaud tonight, we want you to hit your hands like this. And if you're not watching, it's like I'm hitting my wrists together and making like are these like the giving hands or something? It kind of looks like I'm making here, kind of putting them out in like a U shape. I'm hitting the inside of my wrists together.
Maybe,
and sure. To make a high pitched humming sound like oh, like that. So it's going to be very obnoxious and embarrassing. But it very much seemed like they were joking about it. But then they come out and they're like, "Come on, Chicago, everybody applaud, applaud." And the crowd really wasn't like doing it. Like slowly people started to make that weird noise and applaud like that more, but the crowd really wasn't going for it. And they kept like asking, they were like getting more and more intense, like demanding us to applaud louder. And they're like disappointed with how little we're applauding. And then finally they were just like, "All right, just fucking applaud like normal. Just let's go. Come on. Let's get the energy up. Like, come on." And it was clear that like that was part of the shtick, I feel like. And that's what like Patrick, Paul, and Ken all thought. But I don't know. I was just so in my head and was like, they are legitimately angry at us right now that we're not applauding enough. And we just didn't do the thing they wanted. And it did feel kind of weird in the room because it was such a big theater.
As you were like Ronin ripped.
Yeah, just real out of my mind, dosed. And so I was definitely thinking about it too much. But there was like, I swear to God, there was a thing that I was picking up on where it was like, it feels like they're disappointed. And so, and later on they had John C. Reilly came out, who plays Dr. Steve Brule. And like, he did like an interview segment with like another audience member. And when we weren't like applauding apparently enough for him, Tim was like, "Come on, like we don't bring him to every show. Like this is pretty special. Like how do you feel?" And then everybody applauded like really huge. And he also said something, which this had to be a joke, but he was like, "Nobody fucking checked the email a half an hour before the show, and like you're not prepared." And he was like pointing to different parts of the audience to like say the same word together, and we were going back and forth, and it was like hot, spicy, yummy. And that one felt more like just he's fucking around and like just getting us all into it. But even then, people weren't like fully yelling and fully getting into it. And even when he finally explained what this section was supposed to say, when he pointed at them, they weren't really getting it entirely, and it wasn't as loud as it should have been. So I do feel like there was, even though I was just being high and overthinking it, there had to be a little bit of like, he is kind of disappointed by this too. And this was the largest crowd they had ever done. Chicago Theater's like 3,700 seats. And they said this is the largest crowd they've ever done, the largest stage they've ever done. And this participatory show that they do, where even if part of it is to shit talk the crowd for not getting into it enough, I think it's more just about like making them be participating and clapping and everything throughout the show, and then they just do it, and it's a high energy show. But here they were actually getting angry because we weren't following along. So I looked up on his Twitter, all this to say that I looked up on his Twitter, and I think it was the night after the show. Yeah, it was the day after. He says, Tim Heidecker, whose Twitter right now says Tim Newman, which is funny, on touring. I love it, but it sucks. And I was like, okay. So right after the Chicago show is when he says it. And then the first comment says, damn, maybe not the best tweet to see hours before your set to strut your stuff with my own self in the audience. Right. This is mostly regarding the quality of theater shows. And I was like, oh, shit, right there. That's literally the exact distinction I was making, where because we're this kind of big theater and the energy isn't quite there, it's probably a little bit older of an audience. Literally, we had this old couple, I forgot, that sat down next to us. And the moment they sat down, they told the person who brought them to their seats, the old guy was just like, why did I think this was VIP seating? And she's like, I don't know, but this is where you are. And they sat down and were like pissed about it. And like 5 minutes into the show, they left and were gone, which was another reason I was like, shit, this is kind of aggressive. But they were old and it was weird. I don't know why you would go to a Tim and Eric show if you didn't know who they were. And I was like, fuck, I was right. He didn't like the fact that it was a theater show. They probably weren't exactly prepared for the fact of how big it was, and maybe the setup of the show with trying to be participation based throughout is like, you know, tougher in a theater. But then I looked at it again, and it just said this is mostly regarding the quality of theater showers, not shows, but showers. And then it was like,
so you just had it totally wrong.
Yeah, I just didn't have it right. And maybe he just had a bad shower at the theater. Do they actually shower at the theater? Did he mean shows and not showers? Does he just mean showers?
It is kind of a known thing that like the green rooms and the showers are like old and decrepit.
Right. Yeah, because it's, you know, it's an old fucking place. This one says also how it feels simply to be alive.
Pretty emo.
Yes, that is emo.
Love it, but it sucks.
Right.
Like, yeah,
that's
was
nice
kind of goofy.
Yeah, so I think I was just fucking a little too inebriated there, overthought the whole thing, but I don't know. Still felt a little bit like they were a little bit pissed that we weren't fully going for it, but they also set it up wrong, and fucking, you can't make any noise by hitting your wrists together, and I'm not for an hour straight just going to keep going like, oh, not that baked. I pretty much lost my voice the next day because I was cheering so much. That's one thing I hate at comedy shows. Like here it was kind of funny because that's what they were going for. But I hate when the comedian, especially during a stand-up show, they like, when it's like a showcase style and each comedian comes up and they're like, give it up for your host. All right. Give it up for everybody you've seen. Cool. Like the host literally just said, give it up for this person coming on stage. That person gets on stage, says, keep it going for your host. So you just keep fucking clapping, and you just finish clapping for the person who was just on stage. It's like, all right, keep it going for that guy. Nice. You guys ready to keep the show going? All right, nice. This next comedian, get it going right now. For this person, let's go. Let's get it going. Come on, you can do better than that. Keep it going. And that person gets on stage, they're like, keep it going for the host. All right. Let me kill all the fucking energy out of everybody here who just wants to laugh by making them clap for like 30 seconds straight. And then they start their set by like, how's everybody doing? And you just have to be like, woo. And then comedians will be like, I never fucking understand why audiences woo. It's like, I'm not asking you a question. It's like, yeah, you fucking are. You're asking. There's no proper response other than applause or, yeah, at a comedy show. And then as comedians, if anybody responds with anything more than that, they call it heckling and they get pissed at you for that. So I really hate how much you're supposed to clap at these fucking stand-up shows. And I want that to be my opener, but then I feel like I'm shitting on all the other comedians and ruining their stuff. So I don't want to step on any toes, but we'll see. Maybe I'll get to it. Clearly there's a vein in there that's upset about it because I just went in on it.
What did you think of the show?
It was fucking hilarious.
Yeah.
I was in my head just so much because I'm not kidding. Like every single sketch that they had with different characters, they kept calling on the audience. There was a lot of songs. They were calling on the audience to clap along and like say shit, and like that we weren't getting loud enough. So it was like continually coming up. The only time that we really didn't need people to tell us when to get loud was with Steve Brule. When John C. Reilly came, everybody was just like freaking the fuck out. And yeah. But then even then, Tim and Eric came back out. It was like the end of the show. They did it with John C. Reilly, and then they asked for like, you know, the 15th round of applause for Steve Brule, and it was a little bit lackluster at that point, even though we'd given him a standing ovation when he came out. And they're like, come on, we don't do this for every city. Like, let's hear it. It was like, Jesus Christ. We have been applauding for so long that I lost my voice. So, yeah. But it was really fucking funny. It was great. I wish I didn't get so. That's a lesson there. But everybody else was. It's one of those things where I don't want to be the only one that's not, even though that's not enough of a reason to do it. Oh, well. I guess we do have a little bit of time here. I saw Jessica Kirson show as well. She's this very funny middle-aged lesbian comedian, but just super raunchy. Kept doing jokes where it was like super dirty and like sexual, and then like there was definitely people in the crowd that weren't going along with it, and she would just like call them out and be like, I love how some of you are just staring at me blank in the eyes, just with no way to respond here, like you guys are dumb. But then she'd turn around and like joke about how she's like being so dirty because she wants the approval of those people. But yeah, let's get into this last article. Oh wait, no, so there was this couple in front of me, two older lesbian women, and my legs were just, at comedy clubs, your chairs are super close together. And so my legs are large, and they're kind of surrounding the chair in front of me. So when she got sat in front of me, she just looked at me, was like wondering whether or not to put her winter coat over the chair because it would cover my legs. And I was just like, yeah, sorry, but go ahead and put your coat down. I don't care. Like, I'll make some room. And she was like, I feel terrible. I don't want to sit down. Like, you feel like I'm going to hurt you. I'm like, yeah, well, I go to a lot of comedy shows and I'm tall, so it's constantly an issue. It's fine. I got room as long as you're comfortable. And she's just like, you know what I'll do for you? Or then she's like, oh, I like this guy. What's your name? And like, I introduced myself. She's like, I don't remember what her wife's name was, but she was like, Jody, have you met Jack, my new friend? I love him already. And she like scooches her chair up into the aisle in front of her, which is bigger, but that's because the waitresses go through, or the servers go through, and they give the drinks in there because they need more room. And she's like, well, I guess we're not doing it this time. I guess we're just going to have to do the pass it down system. I was like, all right, we'll do Henry Ford's assembly line. That sounds good with me. And she's just like, she laughs and she's like, I fucking love this guy. All right, this is great. I'm already loving this. But then they were relatively quiet throughout the show, even though they were lesbians. I feel like they were a little uncomfortable with the very intense lesbian sex humor, because that's the parts where they cringed up at most points. And then Jessica Kirson pointed it out over with the general feeling of the room. But there, I guess I wasn't high as shit, and I fucking loved it. So that might be the lesson there. Even though it was much more aggressive at the Tim and Eric. This was more her just like, well, I don't know. I don't know. I'm not sure. Okay. Speaking of comedy, this one writer wrote an article about Louis C.K. doing a tour and but like shitting on him as a person, a comedian the whole time, but also giving all of the links and information for his tour, possibly to like have people go and, like boycott and like picket. But it really is just giving, like, for me, I looked at it, and I think it's called Louis C.K.'s Return to Stand-Up. So I was like, oh shit, maybe this is an article just like talking about it honestly. But no, it's like a slam article, but it still gave me all the information I needed to find him. Hold on, can you go up? I'll read it. So it says, defamed edgelord Louis C.K. is trying to revive his comedy career despite confirming the 5 accusations of sexual misconduct made against him. So he's not trying to revive his comedy career. He is touring. He's doing well. He could sell out the United Center right now if he wanted to, but he would get people like this person showing up and just writing a bunch of blogs about it, but I wish he would. His recent sets see him making ill-advised rape jokes and mocking Parkland survivors. Luckily for people who are into lazy humor, Louis C.K. is bringing his blind entitlement on the road in what he's mislabeling as a stand-up comedy tour. The tour dates stretch from tonight in Denver, Colorado, on through May 23rd in Copenhagen, Denmark. Along the way, he will take the stage live in major cities like Phoenix, Philadelphia, New Brunswick, Knoxville, Syracuse, Boston, Berlin. Find his entire schedule below. So it's like literally just laying out all the fucking... So it has every tour date and where he is and the name of the theater. And I was like, well, it's not in Chicago, but if it was, I would have bought a ticket. So it's just hilarious, these people who like think that there's definitely a bunch of people who are reading this and like, fuck Louis, and they'll maybe even show up to some of these shows to be an asshole to the people going and trying to stop them from going in, even though it's like entirely their choice to go see this guy.
Yeah, it's very strange, this article.
It feels like super, maybe it's also on the side of the right, but it feels like super liberal, mainly PC people think that their political activism can just be writing shit on the internet and that's going to like get done what they want done. But it just is like, if anything, doing the exact opposite. Like I literally read this and was like, cool, like this is hilarious that they're so upset about this, but also if there's a Chicago date here, I'm gonna buy the ticket. And it literally says, can you go, if you're still dying to hear cliched cracks at gender neutral pronouns and incredibly tasteless Auschwitz jokes by a guy who issued a copyright notice to protect his profoundly unoriginal jokes, then you can grab tickets to his upcoming tour dates here. And it has a hyperlink and you can click on his tour, get tickets on StubHub. It's hilarious. It's
yeah.
Like,
and they're, by the way, this is a tracked link, so they get money.
That's so true.
Every time someone clicks on this.
That's why I was like wondering, I'm like, is this like, are they being aware of the fact that they're just straight up advertising for him? And is this like at least aware of how ironic this is, or like, you know, how parodied this almost feels? Felt like an Onion article with how just like ridiculous it was.
I mean, in all honesty, when it comes to higher ups at these places, they know this gets clicks,
right?
And it's a money driver for them. Whereas the person writing this is probably given guidelines as to how to do it.
Yeah.
But then they're adding their, I don't know. But it is very strange and only makes me want to buy a ticket if I could.
Right.
And maybe that's the tactic. But if you look at everything else, they slam him
this
multiple times.
This website has plenty of articles that are just slamming him.
So I think they want to slam him.
Right.
But
and they're just like doing their due diligence to make it a reputable article and have all the information. But it's like, all right, let me know when your next hit piece comes out and he's coming to Chicago. Thanks for the info.
Yeah.
Can't wait to get tickets. All right. That was episode 24. Anything else?
Nothing right here.
Let's hope Mike Pence stops the coronavirus. Can't wait for that. You're all handsome. See you next week on Jack's Tap.
Now you're gone. I realize my love for you was strong, and I miss you here. Now you're gone. I keep waiting here by the phone with the pictures hanging on the wall. Is this the way it's meant to be? Only dreaming that you're missing me.